The Ultimate Football Fan is now here. All the biggest fan channels in one place.
Flex Nights down.
100% Chelsea.
Arsenal Fan TV.
All about the fans.
Why is he on the fucking pitch? What for what?
Exclusive content only here.
Hello boys and girls and welcome to
The UFF Daily Football Show.
The number one source, everything going on in the football world, daily.
UFF, do what you have to do.
UFF Daily Football Show.
The number one source, everything going on in the football world, daily.
UFF, do what you have to do. Hello and welcome to FanPark Live and our first head-to-head special brought to you by the Ultimate Football Fan and History. Appreciate you all tuning in this evening. Make sure you smash that like button. As always, we want your comments below because this is going to be a heated and passionate debate. I have Drifty and I have Chris in here this evening. We're talking all about two massive Premier League legends, Thierry Henry and Alan Shearer. And I'm going to set the premise for the debate now. Which of the two was the best English Premier League striker? Before we hear from these two gentlemen, you know that you can call us up tonight. We want to hear your opinions on this as well. 0203 606 0315 if you want to join in with this examination of these two superstar players. Just to give you a little bit of information about these two in case you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years. 577 league goals between them. A few Premier League titles between them as well. Alan Shearer did with one. Some young people don't think he did, but he did. And on top of that, Henry and Shearer are responsible for some of the most iconic and mouth-watering, mesmerising moments and goals in Premier League history. So they're both absolutely outstanding, but we want to hear from these two boys around who exactly was the best. On top of that, on the Ultimate Football Fan Twitter page, we have a live poll going on right now where you can cast your vote. We will be checking that out through the duration of this live stream. Who am I going to go to first here?
Well, I'm saying we should leave the best till last. So for that reason, I think Drifty should go first.
And I think Chris is talking about the player he's debating rather than himself. Chris is a very humble man, as a general rule, I'd say there. We'll come to Drifty first of all. So the way this is going to work, you're going to get 2 minutes to tell us who you pick in the debate, uninterrupted, and give us your reasons as to why you think, and I'm going to let everyone know, Alan Shearer is the best Premier League striker.
I don't even know if I need 2 minutes. It's just so easy. The guy is the definition of a goal machine. Mm-hmm. Like, if there was actually a picture of goal machine, it would be Alan Shearer's face. The guy was prolific throughout his entire career. And when I mean entire career, I mean entire career. Like, there wasn't really a drop-off except for the injury. There was like a point during his career. I think he was like late 20s. I can't actually remember. I think he was around late 20s when he got that really bad ankle injury that kept him out for something like 6-7 months, which back in them days, obviously, they didn't have, the way to fix people as quickly as they can now. So people thought his career might be over, whatever. He still came back from it. This guy also, you have to remember, he didn't go to Manchester United. And I know that this isn't really anything to do with the actual ability of the player, but to pick your hometown team over glory, it also just adds a bit about you. It just puts a little bit of something special about you. You know what I mean? So I just don't think it's really questionable. The guy's got the record of was it 260 goals?
260 goals, yes.
That won't be beaten, in my opinion. I mean, I know the longevity of him maybe is why, but I don't think any player's ever going to get 260 goals. It will be years until it's done, put it like that. Unless we get like a Mo Salah who's just going to come and keep doing this constantly, or if Harry Kane keeps going, maybe people will say he might, which is a completely crazy comparison, by the way. I just don't really see how anybody, we're just talking about pure ability to put the ball in the back of the net, head, knee, shoulder, foot, back heel, it doesn't matter what it is. Alan Shearer was the best at doing it.
There you go. Drifty is Haddy, Sader and Alan Shearer. If you agree, leave your comments below. Remember, you can call us on 0203 606 0315. Chris, I'm going to hand over to you now. You're talking Thierry Henry. You've got your 2 minutes. Tell us why he's the best.
I mean, as prolific as Alan Shearer was, at no point in the world could you have said he was the best striker in the world. At no point in the world could you say he was the best player in the world. You could say that about Thierry. You could say that about Thierry Henry at a stage in his career playing for Arsenal. At one point, he was not only one of the best goal scorers, he'd be a Golden Boot winner. He'd also get them assists. And not only would he do it in terms of the numbers, he'd also do it with style. And every year, there'll be something he'd improve in terms of his goal scoring. So whether he'd just be the pacey forward at one point during the early stages of his Arsenal career, but then became a more well-rounded player, he'd be a playmaker. He could dribble, he could beat players in terms of his one-on-one ability. He could beat players in the air during the latter stage of his Arsenal career. Set pieces, free kicks, set pieces, and even just the moments, Henry had it from down pat. And I know we're talking about him as a English Premier League striker, but even on the European stage, I know it's a bit unfair to compare because Newcastle weren't the team that Arsenal were, and even to a degree, England weren't the team that France were, and he had more of a platform. But as an absolute individual, you could count on him to not only get you the goals, to get you the assist, and to get you those moments, and do it in every style, whether it be a simple tap and finish, whether it be just a maverick style type of finish, the back heel versus, I can't remember who it was now, we had the back to goal when he did that in 2004,
I want to
2005.
say Middlesbrough.
I think Middlesbrough or Southampton, one of those teams.
Maybe.
And then also, obviously even just the manner in which he would break those records. So you have Ian Wright, who's an elite goal scorer. And if you remember the goals that he scored to break that record, it may be a bit unfair because it was in Europe, but Kolo Touré plays a long ball over the top, he runs onto it, takes a touchdown first time, pivots around the ball, hits it outside of his foot. Shearer is never doing anything like that. And for me, I felt like Henry was robbed of being the World Player of the Year in around 2004, 2005, run around that year. Shearer, he came third, I think, in '96, in the Ballon d'Or. But again, you couldn't say that Shearer was the best player in the world during that time. You could definitely make that case for Henry. And for that reason, I will have Thierry Henry as the #1 striker out of the two anyway, but definitely Premier League history.
Well, there you go. We've heard from these two. They're going to be able to challenge each other and try and debunk each other's theories in a moment. But what we have now for you is a number of YouTubers and football fans from around the country have sent us in their opinions on who's the best between Thierry Henry and Alan Shearer. So enjoy, and we'll be back with you in a few moments.
I'm going to say Thierry Henry, and I'm saying that because for me, Thierry Henry, he could turn nothing into something in a game. He had that moment of magic in him. He was fast. He had a lot more to his game. Shearer, obviously, fantastic finisher. Knew where the goal was. Phenomenal in the air. But Henry, for me, he had that pace.
Shearer, no danger about Shearer. He won Blackburn the league on his own, mate. You know what I mean? He won that league on his own. He signed it. The country, I ain't saying him because he should have come to us, mate.
And he turned us down, yeah.
Exactly, and he knows that's the biggest regret he ever done. He won one Premier League trophy. If he come to us, he would have won a fucking fortune. He would have won loads. He would have won every cup going. But no, he chose them cunts. And hey, to be fair, he won in the league.
I mean, it's very easy to say Alan Shearer is the quintessential English striker and Thierry Henry with his French vavavoom, can he do it on a cold, wet night in Stoke? But he could. I'm going to go Alan Shearer simply because I lived in Ireland for 3 years and I'll never forgive Thierry Henry for the little handball in the World Cup that cost Ireland. But both fantastic. But in my team, Alan Shearer simply because hold-up play, strong, typical old-fashioned striker. But Henry, what a player.
It has to be Henry. It has to be. Not only did he score goals, and scored great goals, he was also a brilliant creator of goals, whether it's from the left flank in open play, whether it's set pieces. I know he didn't score many headers, he took a lot of the corners. But as an all-round player, his dribbling ability, his eye for goal, whether inside or outside the box, I don't think there's any Premier League player that can really compare.
Henry versus Shearer. Don't upset any people here. Okay, I'm going to go for Henry. He's got much more pace. He can skill. He can play him anywhere. He was obviously left wing until Arsenal converted him to a striker. He's an amazing player. He's a role model of mine. Shearer, he can strike. He's also a really good player, but... Okay, I'm going to... Henry for me. Best striker, best player.
The clue is in the question. Who is the best Premier League striker. Now, the answer is Shearer. But by saying Shearer doesn't mean that Shearer is the better player. Henry is the better player because Henry is one of the greatest players ever to grace the Premier League. But the key thing is striker. The question says who is the best Premier League striker, or who is the best Premier League striker between Shearer and Henry.
Very, very much for everyone that sent in their videos. Maybe that's changed your views and your opinions. Maybe it's changed the minds of these guys in the studio.
Hell no.
Leave your comments below. We're going to get up the Twitter poll now, because after the Twitter poll, these two get to challenge and debunk each other. This is the bit I look forward to the most in a debate. But we're going to get the Twitter poll up now. This is on the Ultimate Football fan page. It's quite heavily weighted to Thierry Henry, if I'm being absolutely honest. After 2,500 votes, 84% are saying Thierry Henry was the best striker, leaving, of course, 16% for Alan Shearer. That is a big landslide.
I'm wondering how old those guys are.
How old they are?
Yeah, all those
Oh, is that what we're doing?
I'm wondering how old they are.
Oh,
Do they just think Alan Shearer is a presenter on Match of the Day?
Probably.
The younger generation aren't going to remember him.
But the
They're
numbers,
not.
all right, so you say they're not going to remember him, that's fine, but there's enough, like, Shearer was still around, and even if they didn't watch him play, the numbers are there. So if it was just down to them not seeing him, it's just like, well, that doesn't, it doesn't, it doesn't explain the massive disparity between those goals.
If you have no memory of something, you can't attach yourself to it. You just can't.
I hear what you're saying, but the records are similar. Like, if you're talking about them as strikers and you're talking about them as numbers, because you said, right, like there's a difference between them as players and them as strikers, right? So how do you judge strikers? Goals, numbers, and it's comparative. So you've got to look at, okay, so what else outside of that? Because being like the best striker in the world doesn't necessarily have to be the best goal scorer. Like, history has taught us that. If you look at the number one, number 9 in the last 20 years, they probably weren't the highest scoring. So what else do they add to the team? Their numbers are actually pretty similar in terms of the numbers per game. But where Henry actually evolved the role of a striker is, what do I do outside of goal scoring? And even just the emotive, just the aesthetic, there's absolutely zero comparison between Henry and Shearer. If you think about...
Zero comparison, none.
Well, for me, Shearer is more of a throwback to the traditional number 9, and that has its place. I'm not trying to take value away from that. But think about what kind of striker you have to be to not only score, but to create, to do it with crazy athleticism, which Henry did, to do it with crazy technique, which Henry did, big game player. Like, not to say that Shearer doesn't have qualities outside of just scoring goals, because he does, but if you look at the totality of what you want from your striker, you don't want your striker, you're a Liverpool fan, right?
Yep.
Is Firmino a great goal scorer?
Now he is.
Really? The guy
he's got 26 goals.
He's failed to. Oh, hold on. I'm not trying to make it about that. But I'm using that to say that you rate Firmino as a goal scorer, right? But he's failed to score in 24 games in the Premier League. But he adds a lot else to what you need.
Well, I think this is why.
And it's the same thing for Henry.
The evolution of the position has changed even since these guys we're talking about have left. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So, obviously things are different. He's the most complete striker in the league.
Yeah.
For me, no. Not the best, he's the most complete.
But I use that point to say that you're now in the Champions League final. Firmino has done all of that, and you rate him as a goal scorer. So think about a guy that not only finished top all the time, but also was at the... Think about how great you have to be to not only be the best goal scorer, but to register 20 assists in a Premier League season. That's Thierry Henry.
Listen, Henry's a genius. Like this is quite hard for me because I love Henry. No, do you know why you are? Because what you have to remember is Henry had some of the greatest Arsenal teams and the best team in the league, players around him. Shearer was doing this at Newcastle. No disrespect to Newcastle.
That's a fair point.
Because I love Newcastle. That's my second team, family from there, etc. Newcastle, you cannot beat. That is literally like.
But Henry had Bergkamp. He had Faustino Asprilla.
You say that. Well, number one, let's not take away from how good of an attacking side Newcastle were in their heyday. Newcastle were very good.
Nowhere near the Arsenal team.
For a couple of years.
Yeah, nowhere near.
I'm neutral in this. Sorry, I'm neutral.
You say this, but there's actually you can make an argument that if you're the focal point of a team's attacking play, that actually can aid you in terms of goals, like being a great goal scorer. Look at Tony back in when he was at. I don't think it was Fiorentina, but when he was in Italy, this is like mid-2000s, when he was getting 30 plus goals over there. He wasn't part of a great Italian side, but because everything was going through him, he could end up being as high as he was. Even Harry Kane, even what he's doing now, Tottenham are not a great attacking side. Outside of Harry Kane, you're not going to see players get 20 plus goals. That isn't a team.
I don't know. Did Dele Alli do it?
Dele Alli gets no more than he's a secondary goal scorer, and he doesn't get more. He won't get more than 20 goals in the Premier League. So they're not like a City, which they've done this season, where everyone can get goals. Raheem Sterling shouldn't be getting you 20 goals in the season, but because of the team, it aids him. So if you look at what Harry Kane's doing at Spurs, and I'm using that point to demonstrate what I mean with the Henry Shearer thing, is even though Shearer wasn't at the greatest of teams, same way Spurs aren't the greatest of teams, because everything is going through you, because everyone's trying to cross the ball to you, find you on the end of a through ball that can aid you, on top of being on every penalty.
So Shearer is spoon-fed, basically.
I'm not going to use spoon-fed.
I am using spoon-fed.
Yeah,
I'm taking that.
Spurs are still a team who are, at the beginning of the season, you say, can win the league.
Newcastle
were never a team.
Newcastle at some point.
2 years. 2 years.
You're talking about
they had an exceptional season under Keegan that they exceeded all expectations. Other than that, there was always mid-table. Let's just get to 40 points. Make sure we're cool.
You say that like Blackburn were like up there when he was scoring crazy goals. You're saying that like Southampton.
No, he made Blackburn. Let's have a look at what happened to Blackburn when he left.
Okay, so now we're giving him credit for making Blackburn, but
if
he's scoring goals at Southampton,
he's
scoring goals at Southampton.
Yeah,
he's scoring goals at Blackburn. He's scoring goals at Newcastle. Again, this is more to do with Shearer's greatness. I'm not taking it away from him.
because just remember the teams you're saying.
Yeah, but like these are teams.
Juventus,
well, hold on, but these are teams that were finishing top half of the table, Champions League places. Newcastle in the early 2000s were finishing in the top 4 under Bobby Robson. Newcastle were in the Premier League hunt in the mid to late 90s, just after the Blackburn days, and he wasn't playing for teams that were fighting relegation. Shearer was playing for good teams,
but he was the reason they did what they did.
But all those teams then fought relegation when he left.
Yeah, he's the reason they did what they did.
But
110%.
But again, my point is that if a team is centered around getting you the ball and in and around the penalty area, you're going to score goals if there's enough quality services. Like Newcastle had good players around him. Yeah, Blackburn had good players around him.
You got to see how many times that guy had his back to goal span and just spanked it from 15, 20 yards.
You say that, and don't get me wrong, obviously you had Bergkamp play for Arsenal and Perez and whatnot.
The greatest number 10 to ever
I'll tell
play
you,
in the
but
Premier
I'll tell you what, I don't know about that. But what I'll say, and I'm an Arsenal fan, but what I'll say is that every iconic goal that you can remember of Henry, he created by himself. There was no service involved.
All the iconic goals of Shearer I can think of are just unbelievable strikes from like 20 yards, 25 yards. Just volleys out of this world.
Off the top of my head, I can name you 10 iconic Henry goals.
Well, you're an Arsenal fan, so that's a lot easier. You lived it.
Hey, boy, don't blame me for watching football and remembering football and having a good memory.
But you lived it. You didn't live Newcastle.
But you don't remember Newcastle.
You didn't live Newcastle.
No. Listen, I'm a 30-year-old man. I watched Newcastle in the mid-90s and in the late 90s, obviously going in before he retired. So I do remember Shearer very well. And I saw enough of him at Blackburn to know, okay, if anything, you can make an argument he was better as a Blackburn player than he was at Newcastle, because this is before he had an injury. He had crazy pace. And that's an argument that you can make, that, okay, if it wasn't for that kind of injury where he because Shearer wasn't always a traditional number 9. He was actually pretty much an off-the-shoulder type of forward up until a certain point. But
he was never rapid, though.
He was rapid enough.
No, maybe because defenders were slower back then, but not really. Like, that's another thing. This guy had no pace, and he still did what he did. Like, let's be honest, pace makes you who you are.
Yeah.
Theo Walcott has got a career because of speed.
I'm enjoying
Owen
this.
is way better than he was because of speed. So to have no speed,
I'm enjoying this. And really good points. We've got some callers that want to come on now and have their say as well as we're getting near to the close of this debate show. I hope you're all enjoying it. Make sure you smash that like button. Leave your comments below if you have been. Jay, ready for the first caller, if you would. We've got an Alan Shearer supporter on the line coming through.
You did it to yourself, boy.
Hello, welcome to FanPark Live Head to Head. What would you like to say about Mr. Shearer?
Oh, basically, yeah. Shearer, I don't think it's close. He's a far superior striker.
Why?
To Henry.
Why is he a superior striker? What makes him superior?
Well, Shearer represents British values. He represents the British game. Every Premier League striker, English, Geordie lad, should aspire to be like Shearer. He's good with his head, fast, strong.
Okay. Anything else to add on top of that?
If he went to Barcelona, he'll be remembered as probably the top 5 greatest strikers in the world. His problem is he didn't play for a glamorous club, and I think that's all there is to it. You can't argue with the statistics, 260 Premier League goals, Henry didn't come close. I think Shearer just takes this comfortably, in my opinion.
Thank you very much for your call. Drifty, obviously, you're on Alan Shearer's side here. Do you agree with what his comment there? I saw you nodding about he didn't play for a glamorous, fashionable club. Did that not help him?
And I mentioned it earlier on. It's what it is. Like we're thinking about the player Henry. We're not thinking about a goal scorer. Like Alan Shearer, there's just no debate if you're talking about putting a little round thing made of leather past the goalkeeper into the net.
Cool.
There's just no other. He played for Newcastle and Blackburn. Come on, man. If Henry was at Newcastle, there's no way he would have done those numbers.
Newcastle and Blackburn were...
They're not...
More often than not, like, I have absolutely no issue bringing this up at some point during the debate or after the debate. During that, let's actually use them at their peak, because I don't even want to judge them like during the declining years. That's how confident I am of Henry being superior than Shearer, right? At their peak, goals per game, because you're talking about purely goals, there's parity. They're literally neck and neck, right? And during that period, between 21 and 28, I think that's the...
Yes.
During that period, that's when he was playing for title-challenging teams, or teams in and around the higher end of the league. So all of this talking about Newcastle and Blackburn, stop discrediting them like that.
But would you say they became title challenging teams because of his goals? Well, if you took Henry away, Arsenal already winning Premier League titles, FA Cup titles, European Cups ever before him. Blackburn and Newcastle weren't doing that before Shearer arrived. He was the catalyst of change.
When Henry last became top goal scorer, Arsenal struggling to get to 4th. And that's about the same kind of situation that Newcastle were in and this is like early 2000s. The Bobby Robson, this is when it was him and Bellamy, Kieran Dyer, Nobby Solano, them guys there. Like that's again, they were vying for like the top 4, top 5.
Yeah, no, they were. But they were punching above their weight.
Okay, so now that's a critique on the team.
Yeah,
that's a different.
No,
that's a different argument.
I'm just saying there's no way you can make a comparison between Newcastle and Arsenal. There's just absolutely
if you're talking about the stretch, I agree with you. But what I'm saying,
just talking about everything.
But what I'm saying to you is that Henry has played for other clubs and always scored goals. And we can flip the argument and say, well, that just demonstrates the greatness of Henry, that the fact that he's playing for these big clubs. We talk about British values. Listen, I don't know what kind of Brexit type of philosophy we're trying to push in order to get Shearer to win.
Well, that was a caller. We don't endorse. I didn't quite get that point.
I don't know what that was.
The second half of that call was quite good. The first half, I was like, I thought Nigel Farage had called.
Yeah, but like Gary Lineker was also talk after this call.
Hello, welcome to FanPark Live. What's your name?
Terry Chark from AFTV.
Oh, hello, mate. How are you?
Pardon? What's that?
The plug. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm
who are you here to support? Henry or Shearer?
Oh, I wonder who. Obviously, Thierry Henry.
Go on, give us your point.
Bring it home.
So, I'd like to completely disagree with the guy before. But firstly, with his point about the amount of goals Shearer scored, because Shearer did that in 441 appearances, which was 0.59 goals per appearance. Henry scored 175 Premier League goals in 258 appearances, which was 0.68 per game. So actually, game to goal ratio, Henry beat Shearer to a significant extent. In addition to that, Henry won 4 Golden Boots in a much more, I'd say, competitive era, in the sense that there was a lot more competition for the title. It wasn't necessarily like the United dominant years where Shearer was prominent in. And equally, to be fair, one can't take away what Thierry brought to the game in terms of the fact that, from a striker point of view, like Shearer, the whole team would struggle if Shearer couldn't do something, and then if the team were down, he struggled to get that last-sticking goal, whereas Henry would have that edge to be the catalyst to bring that winning goal and to actually bring Arsenal to success, because, as I said, we won titles and trophies as well. And I think if you're going to be a fantastic striker, you can score goals, but you can score goals in many other leagues. I'm not discrediting Shearer here, but you need to win titles and win trophies to solidify your success as a striker and as a goal scorer, to show what they actually come to, and Shearer wasn't able to do that. And that's one of the other reasons why he brought to give it to Thierry Henry, who arguably was, regardless of the fact he was French, I don't know what
we didn't even worry about that part of his point. The second half was pretty good. Mate, really do appreciate your call. Thank you very, very much.
Just to follow up on that, that's another part that we need to talk about, how competitive and the quality of the league what the quality of the league was looking like when Henry did what he did and what Shearer was doing what he did. And even if you look at all of the greatest strikers in our generation, right? So I don't want to go back to like Van Basten and Pelé, those guys. From what we saw, grew up watching as adults, right? We're talking about Brazilian Ronaldo. We're talking about Henry. Even in the Premier League, in terms of just fantastic campaigns from one striker, we're looking at even Luis Suarez. What is the common denominator between all of them? Even Van Persie, it's what they did, not just in terms of in front of goal, but how they contributed to other aspects of play, and not even in an offensive sense, but in the creative sense.
And I agree with that point.
And imagine if Henry didn't have to worry about pulling out to the left and giving 20 odd assists. Imagine how many goals he could have scored with that. Yeah. That's something that you
we're
have
talking
to
about
factor in.
player, not striker. But we can't do that.
But hold on, like if I'm going to judge you as a, I'm not going to differentiate between you as a striker and a player.
Let me give you an example.
It's one of the same.
No, it isn't. I'll give you an example. Marcelo is the best player to ever play left back. He is not the best ever left back.
How do you know he's the best player to ever play left back?
Because I watched the guy and he is technically the most gifted player I've ever seen play left back. But he is not the best left back ever because defensively, he's not as good as some of the other greats, Maldini, Ashley Cole, etc. But he's the best player to play left back. So you can have a little bit of a twist on these things when it's like, Henry's a better player.
Okay.
It's not fair to say, because he can't pick the ball up, run at, 100 miles an hour and take on 4 people and bang it in the top corner, that he's not better than, it's not fair. That's not fair. We're talking about putting the ball in the net, and Shearer did it as many times as Henry without the ability Henry had.
Great points. We've got a last caller of the night. Hello, welcome to FanPark Live, head to head. What are you saying?
What am I saying? How are you going to fucking compare Thierry Henry to Alan Shearer? Are you mad? You shouldn't even have this show on. Henry is a far superior striker. Done it in less games. And I'm going to sit here and allow you man to sit there and diss fucking Thierry Henry. You mad? Shut this show down.
Listen.
You mad?
Okay.
Are you mad?
Listen.
Thierry Henry we're talking
It is
about.
Adam Deacon or someone. Listen. Explain why he's far superior. Can you detail to us why in your own words? Don't regurgitate Chris. Don't read it out of a magazine. Tell him in your words why.
I'll tell you why.
Go on.
My man, Thierry Henry, will pick up the ball, split second, bang, goal. Didn't need to think about it. He was a scorer of bad boy goals.
So did Shearer.
Thierry, yeah, as well. He did a couple, but most of his goals were shit.
Mate, you ruined yourself. You ruined yourself. Sorry, you can't stay on the air by saying most of Shearer's goals. See, that's like one of those nonsensical debates. Sorry, I am being neutral here, but
listen, don't get me wrong. You're not going to score 260 goals and not have a good amount be good top quality goals. No. That's a given, right? Just for the sheer volume of goals you scored, right? But listen, don't sit there and be disingenuous and try to tell me that Alan Shearer has as many magical moments, as many magical goals as Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry was scoring the type of goals that...
That's not the question.
No, because if
he's the best goal scorer.
But if you say...
That's
no,
not the question.
that's not the...
Right, gentlemen. I am gonna step in here just because of the premise of the show here. We're gonna give you a chance in a few moments to give your closing points and your closing arguments. Just gonna check out the Twitter poll, see how it's getting on, see if it's changed at all. Well, it has changed. 5,500 votes now. 83%. So there's been a reduction in Henry dominating this poll, and it's 17%. And if there are any gooners out there that are finding this debate offensive, go shake your head. Because just go shake it. If you're melting little snowflakes over the debate, you've got to calm yourself down. This is the grown-up real world where debate and speech can happen like this. So calm yourselves down, like our last angry caller.
I get what he's angry, to be fair.
I don't. But I want to say one thing before I pass you guys to your closing statements. I think statistics are very important. So goals per game, great. But what's interesting with the plug he came on and gave his stats, he was giving Shearer's stats for his entire Premier League career. Henry was in the Premier League between 21 and 28 years of age, I believe, which is his absolute pomp years. They're statistically were his best years as well. If you actually compare Shearer's best years, they're bang on par with each other. If Henry would have finished the entirety of his season in the Premier League, maybe he would have beaten the goal scoring record. However, maybe his decline as he got older would have been far more rapid in a league that we all generally hold up as being the best and most physical. So the stats, it's a bit, I'll give you an example. Jose Mourinho's win ratio in the Premier League was higher than Sir Alex Ferguson's, and Chelsea fans used to use it as he's the best manager ever, but he only did 2.5 years when he had that like 60-odd%. If you do 25 years in the league, the likelihood is your goals per game ratio or your win ratio as a manager will naturally decrease as you get older, and maybe you're not as successful and as a striker. So I think with stats, I think you have to be really careful when comparing them. And then what both these gentlemen have done brilliantly tonight is they've looked at magical moments, certain goals, influence on lesser teams, influence across the whole of the pitch. That's how you really debate who the best players are, the most influential, in my opinion. I'm saying that because this is the first of many shows. Working alongside history over the next 3 weeks, we are coming to you live every night at 10 p.m. for the hashtag history of football in the build-up to the World Cup that's coming. And that's a great way to debate if you can do it at school, if you can do it at work. Talk about moments and feelings and emotions and influence. Don't just focus on the statistics because they are heavily manipulated depending on how good you are at maths. Drifty, I'm going to come to you first to give us your closing statement. You've got a minute to round this up to convince the viewers out there that Alan Shearer was the best.
I love the way you was talking about the stats because I think that is so important. Shearer was here for so much longer. It's not really fair to talk about stats because his declining years were in the league, whereas Henry's weren't. I also love the point that you made about Henry's declining years not being here. He wouldn't have been as good as he was in his 30s. I think the Premier League kind of proves it beats you up in your 30s. And Henry wouldn't have been as impressive in his 30s. Shearer still was. He was still impressive. And again, as I said, this guy had no pace. The guy was in a lesser team. No disrespect to Blackburn or Newcastle, by the way. Like, I actually respect both teams. I love Newcastle. But they're just not on that Arsenal level. And when you got people around you like Vieira, Bergkamp, all these other superb, spectacular, like, arguably the best ever type players, we haven't... Come on, man, it was easier for Henry. It was just easier for him. We're talking about putting a ball in the back of the net. Who's at the top of the record chart? Alan Shearer, argument done.
Your final statement?
Yeah, this debate isn't who's the greatest goal scorer in the Premier League ever. It's who's the best ever striker. And in the modern era, being a striker is more than just putting the ball at the back of the net. There's a reason why the argument isn't Alan Shearer versus Ruud van Nistelrooy. It isn't just about goal scoring. It's about everything that you could do as an attacker. If we were to look at the greatest strikers, just in world football, world history, very rarely are those guys that are pure goal scorers. It's what they can do outside of goal scoring as well as being elite top goal scorers. And in that regard, Thierry Henry is head and shoulders above Alan Shearer. Even if you're going to look at stats during their prime years, similar level. If anything, Henry is marginally superior. So I think it says something to him about him as a striker that he could do that as well as be as creative as he was, and as just given the finesse and the magic that he gave Premier League fans. And he probably did it in a more competitive era as well. He did it when Chelsea were genuine title competitors. He did it when Manchester United were obviously doing what they were doing. So for that reason, I mean, like you can hear it in my voice, like it's easy. It's easy.
Cool. Well, gentlemen, I really do appreciate you doing it. I have been told in my ear that I didn't know this before we went live. I actually get to give the casting vote. Oh, this is so hard because I really hate both of them. I hate both of these players, but I respect them both greatly. I have to side with Thierry Henry on this one. Unfortunately, he is the best Premier League striker of all time. Alan Shearer, amazing guy, holds the record, of course he does. But the only person that pips Thierry Henry, in my opinion, is Sonogo. Apart from that,
Sonogo's pretty talented. I can't lie to you.
But that's it. Thierry Henry for me gets it. But as ever, we want your comments below, whether you're watching this live or the playback later on whatever platform. Remember, we are back again tomorrow, 10 p.m. Massive debate tomorrow. The Premier League versus La Liga.
See.
This debate has been going on since I can remember. It's never finally been settled. Forget any other platform. We at FanPark Live, head-to-head in association with history, we are going to debate that, and we're going to end that debate tomorrow night for you, so make sure you join in. Gentlemen, appreciate you both coming on the show tonight. Really, really do. Thank you very much. Thank you to all our callers. Yes, it's great debate, boys. Great. It was civilised.
Neither of these players played for my team, by the way, so I feel like I'm completely unbiased.
That's because Liverpool don't have a striker that fits in the top 5-10 in the Premier League, so we couldn't include one.
What?
No.
What?
No.
Come on.
No.
Top 5. Really?
Take care. Good night.
For another day.
And God bless.
For another day.